So tell me about, so you came up here to train and acclimate to the altitude, to compete in this Spartan race.
Yes.
Hurt your foot.
Yes.
How? What happened?
So I'm actually, for an obstacle racer, I'm a huge klutz, which people know because of how many like weird injuries I've had. And so I took a digger on a trail and, like somehow managed to sprain ligaments in my forefoot, which are really kind of hard to immobilize. And so for those to heal, like we're booting it for a bit.
So just keep it from moving, let it heal. Do you do anything in particular because you've had a few injuries. Do you have a protocol that helps accelerate healing for you?
I try and throw the kitchen sink at it, which I think in the end it can actually be too much because I'm like, okay, heat, ice. And then one thing I do believe in, I use like the Juve red light, which is like clutch, super clutch.
So you've noticed a difference between using red light therapy versus not using it for recovery?
Absolutely.
Excellent. And how do you use it every day?
So I went in heavy training. Like I have one sitting up against my wall at home, and I pretty much, how like legs up against the wall, like you let everything. I pretty much put my legs up against the Juve lying against the wall, and I sit there, for like 15, 20 minutes and chill out and like answer emails on my phone, sitting upside down.
Wow.
I love it. It's like my night relief
And
routine.
it works for you.
It does.
Yeah, my co-host Adam was using it to help his psoriasis and then to help boost his testosterone levels. And the results so far seem to be pretty good. So it's good
I've
stuff.
heard. I'm like, maybe I should start with like, I could just turn 35. So I'm like, maybe I should start with like the face too for the wrinkles.
Yeah.
But
So the last time we saw you, we had you in the studio and we had interviewed you after your Spartan race. You had hurt your finger in the race. In the race. And then before that, you had just recovered or really gotten recovered from other injuries and a lot of people might not know this, maybe they do, but to train for this high level of actually, let's do that. Let's go into your training because I think a lot of people don't realize the dedication it takes to prepare for something like this. What does your training look like on a weekly basis? Like how much time are you spending working out?
So I'm generally, my bulk of my training is trail running. So I'm generally around 50 to 60 miles a week, which is lower than a lot of professional runners, but I'm doing a lot of like up and down and elevation and training. So I wake up at about 4 a.m. and I hit the trails, mostly with a headlamp now at this time of year. And so I have that mileage. And then in the evenings, I do 2 to 3 strength sections a week, which is pretty much very kind of standard things. The stuff that you guys actually helped me with.
Yes.
Like the Bulgarian split squats have been like my best friends.
Are they helping you?
Tons.
Excellent.
Tons. So like the hip issues, the 90-90s, let me tell you about the 90-90s being like the best thing ever in the entire world.
Yeah, those were game changers for me too when I started implementing those.
Oh yeah. In terms of mobility and just strength and single leg stuff. Basic deadlifts, I use trap bar and whatnot, suitcase style. It's just so things that are very functional. And then I do a lot of grip work because of obstacle racing. It's all about hanging and monkeyness. So it's a lot of pull-ups.
Would you say monkeyness?
Monkeyness.
You got to train your monkeyness.
You got to be like a monkey. You got to think like that.
A lot of people don't realize that tends to be the weakest link for a lot of people in obstacle course racing. So you have a lot of these like really small, short competitors that do well because they can support themselves really well with their grips or gymnasts even.
I mean, the best combination for an obstacle racer is somebody who is a runner and a climber and does really well in both because that climbing grip strength, like, let me tell you, because by the, it will slowly fatigue at the course of the race.
Now, so how many hours a week would you say you're training? It says 50 to 60 miles a week. You got the strength training.
I'm probably like, if I include kind of like the prehab and like the mobility and everything, I would say it's at least 20-ish hours of time. Yeah.
Wow. And then on top of that, you have a job.
Yeah, full time.
And so that's a lot of hours dedicated to work and working out. You're, to put it lightly, extremely driven.
Yes.
Where does that come from? Like, how do you do that?
God, sometimes I wish that I had a bone in my body that would just be like, I don't feel like doing anything today.
Let's relax.
Let's just kick back on the couch. And maybe if it's a Sunday and there's football on, then I can kind of do that. But I mean, I think it's one of those things that it's been pretty innate, that I feel better and I'm actually more productive at work when I'm in heavy training, and I'm better at training when I have a lot going on at work. So it's almost like if I have multiple balls in the air, then it forces me to be more efficient, I think, at the task at hand.
So structured. Are you very structured? Like you know exactly what you're doing at every given moment or whatever?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
What time do you go to bed?
Like 9 p.m.
Okay, so that's not too bad. 9 p.m. Wake up before.
Yeah, if I can go to bed at 8 p.m. I will, but you can't always.
So from 4 a.m. to 8 p.m. is it like do you have any downtime?
Those 15, 20 minutes when I'm kicked up against the wall with my red light. No, I don't schedule a lot of downtime. I mean, this actually makes me feel like I have no life. But
well, no, if you find purpose in driving it, who cares?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, having the structure and having that all in place, like makes me. It gives me a purpose. And so when I'm off of training for injury or whatever, I'm sitting there going like, what am I doing? What am I doing with myself?
Do you have an overarching, I guess, motivation or something that drives you to continue to do this and push it? Because you've dealt with some major injuries over the last 5 years, some pretty big ones and some smaller ones, but they could still be a pain in the butt. Like, do you have something that just keeps pushing you forward? I
just never I think that you're going to get knocked down, and every athlete is going to get injured. Everyone's going to get knocked down, but I'm never going to just give in. And that's the thing. It would be super easy to be like, man, I'm injured. I should just sit on the couch all day long. I'm like, no, okay, I'm going to find a workaround. I'm going to find what I can do. I'm going to find how I can to be productive. And I think for me, it's just always trying to find some semblance. Like, I feel alive when I'm out there running on the trails and when I'm doing those things. And so I want to always get back to that. And there will be things that will keep me from that for sure. But I know that in the future, I will get back to that, you know? So.
With a lot of people that I've met, we've had the luxury of interviewing some very high achieving, ambitious individuals and, very self-aware people. And I'll ask them a question like, what's your weakness? And many times their strength also becomes their weakness. Like they're so driven that they find it difficult to know when to take a step back or when to stop or whatever. Do you find that with yourself?
I do. I think that, the same thing that will drive me to excellence is the same thing that will get me injured. The same thing that will drive me through running through breaking my femur, This current one was a freak, like, whoopsie, and that's almost more frustrating in a way because you're like, wait, there were no warning signs. It was just an accident.
Were there critics that you kind of like, oh, now they're going to think I overworked again or something like that?
Absolutely. I think one of the hardest things for me, and I think it's because I've been so open about my injury struggles, is that, like today walking around the venue, everyone's like, you're injured again?
Oh, no.
And so I feel what's been hard mentally is like the stigma of feeling like I am constantly broken and trying to work through that and to realize like, no, and then I understand why a lot of athletes won't talk about injuries and why they won't admit that and why they won't, because you feel the shame. You're like, why does my body keep breaking down? What am I doing wrong?
How are you dealing with that?
It comes and goes. I mean, I do a lot of meditation, a lot of journaling. I write a lot. My outlet is really writing. And some of it I put out in blogs and some of it is just for me. But it's tough because people always say, oh, use this time to find a different passion, to cultivate a different area of your life. And you're like, I'm not going to force it. I'm not going to give up my identity as an athlete or as a runner just because like I can't do it at the moment. But at the same time, I think that I've found it's the reason why I still come to this race, even though I can't run. I was out there volunteering. I was sitting in a Simba onesie, handing out life preservers as people are jumping into a freezing cold lake. So it's finding a way to contribute and to like be everyone else's biggest fans out there that I think gives me meaning.
Well, knowing you, it probably drives you even stronger to hear those critics and to hear those naysayers. Does it ever feel overwhelming?
I think it does. I mean, it definitely does. But I think that what I've realized is that what I imagine in my mind, critics saying, is probably 10 times worse, 100 times worse than what people would actually say. So it's like, I've always been my own worst critic. And so the voices that I hear or that I feel like people would judge me for are probably pretty self-imposed. For the most part, people aren't walking around like concerned day to day about like, if they're sitting around the dinner table talking about how Amelia Boone is injured again, then they need more like things going on
Important
in their lives.
things in their life. Please. Is there anything you'd like to say to them? Would you like to say anything specifically to your critics who say injured again or whatever, or hang it up?
I just think that there's so much in terms of, I always want to give people compassion, you know, and I know myself, I'm super judgmental by nature. It's part of being an attorney. It's part of who I am. But I've realized that like, we're all human. And so it's like, it's how you talk to people. It's how you phrase, like, have compassion, you know, don't be like, you know. So that's the thing. I think we all deal with critics, and I'm sure you guys have plenty of critics of whatever you do.
We have a lot.
You do. And how do you approach them?
You know, I mean, bring it on, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, people, when we get criticized, first of all, we poke fun at ourselves so much that it kind of makes us invincible.
That's
because
true.
You're not going to say anything about me that I haven't said myself.
That is true.
But the other thing too is, you know, if people are talking about you, then that means that you're doing something maybe that might be important or something that's causing people to have conversation. Like, let me ask you this. You have a lot of fans. You have a lot of fans. You are one of the more well-known faces of obstacle course racing.
Yep.
I know lots of girls really look up to you. And I feel like it's not necessarily because your performance, although your performance is part of what got you where you are. I feel like it's other things. What do your fans tell you? Like, why do they follow you? Why do you inspire them? What is it about what you do that inspires them?
So I have to say, like, I do. For every one critic I have,